9, but we got a couple people logging on right now, and we're going boogie, boogie, boogie. Happy Friday. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope you've had a good week. It has certainly been well, it's not a slow news week. Rich, I know your team hadn't been slow at all this week with there's lots of stories going on. Want to first just lead off with our thoughts are with folks in Louisiana, and they're dealing with the hurricane because that thing was, they took one on the chin. It could have been a lot worse, but they dealt with a lot of water and going to be dealing with that for a long time, which, you know, we're somewhat fortunate here on the East Coast because of population and the attention to the Southeast. If we get hit, there's a lot of attention. There's not as much attention on that storm right now because of all the other things going on. But thoughts and prayers are with those that got hit with Laura this week. I'll have to hear some comments from y'all. I turned the TV off. The political news for the last several months. So if anybody wants to chime in later about that, we can talk about that later. But let's hit a couple of big highlights for the week. Obviously, cases are down across South Carolina, which is great. Yesterday, the lowest percentage of tested positive, 8.1, I think, which is the lowest since July, first week of June, I think maybe. It was crazy, but the real concern for us is USC when the 5 Greek houses that are on quarantine, which most of those folks have gone home, but that is something to be mindful of. If you look at what's happened with Alabama, Alabama leads the country in almost 1,000 cases in a week since last Thursday, so 8 days. That's very, very disturbing, quite frankly. You got 3 of the top 10 schools that are tested positive are in North Carolina, NC State, ECU, and Chapel Hill. And then here, and I think I gave them props last week, and I think Caslin's doing the right things by making sure that he's communicating as effectively as possible. If y'all have not checked out the USC dashboard, it's been very helpful to me to just keep up with what's going on at USC and what they're doing. But where I want to give really zero in on the comment he made yesterday, which was, this is our problem and we don't need to make this the city of Columbia's problem, which I greatly appreciate that mindset because that's not always been the case. Specifically meaning that if they can't lock it down, if they cannot get those cases under control, then he will shut USC down. Anecdotally, I mean, I talked to a bunch of college kids, my kids' age or friends of mine or whatever, but, you know, some of them have the mentality of, hey, they don't expect to be here very long. And so they're going to make their most of their time in Columbia, which is a selfish mentality. And they don't really recognize the impact that they have for restaurants and bars and businesses all through this community that rely on students being here. So if you have interns, if you have kids, if you have friends, let them know that this is a significant issue for us as it's a community-wide impact for all of us. And so they need to accept the responsibility. If they want to come to Columbia, just go to school. They need to, you're part of the community. And so we hope that they can lock it down. But I really did appreciate Caslin's comments yesterday and his leadership there. And his team is working really, really hard. But if you got to look a little bit further. If you go to the dashboard, they've got all those stats and stuff is really good. But they also have a list under the dashboard of what each designation means. In fact, I'll tell you exactly what it says. This is campus safety status levels is what it says. And you can actually go in and see what are the triggers, what does it mean for each different status. And so anyway, I thought it was really, really good. But doubling the cases is scary. all in all, another interesting point yesterday that really startling, quite frankly, and I think it deserves a little more digging into, but there was a report yesterday for the COVID task force by the South Carolina House of Representatives, and I think our local rep, Kirkman Finley, is chairing that. But according to the state chamber, and Ted Pitt sent an email out yesterday with some numbers that were quite interesting. Well, two things that came out of there. One, the surplus that we have, the $1.8 billion, is down to $775 million. So they closed the books to the positive, which is great. I'm actually kind of surprised and amazed, but that's $775 million of one-time money. And I hope they use it wisely and think that next year is going to be pretty painful. It's just going to happen. But let me point out one other thing, that this is what was stark, was when the CARES Act ad hoc committee reported yesterday that they had, and this was monies that the CARES Act was sent down. It was a total of $1.2 billion. They came back, if y'all remember, in June to spend some of that money, to allocate some of that money. So they authorized 1.2. There's another 668 that they got to spend when they come back in September. But here's the interesting point. Out of the 1.2 billion that was authorized, they've only distributed less than half of it. There's a stockpile of 16 million worth of PPE that they haven't spent. They haven't allocated the hospital relief, statewide testing. And so I know they said they've not spent any of the 50 million for broadband and hotspots, but I know that's already been allocated, it just hadn't been spent out. But anyway, that's a lot of money to be sitting around and not being used to what it's intended to do. So we need to press on our General Assembly to really move expeditiously to get those testing dollars out, make sure those mobile hotspots are up and at them for students as they go back to school. Anyway, the testing kits are critical too, because the number of tests that we've been seeing in the last week has really dropped, and we probably need to be doing additional testing, quite frankly. All right, so those points on the General Assembly, they are coming back in 3 weeks to deal with the budget. As I mentioned last week, the governor has asked them not to do a new budget, but just to do a CR, basically a continuing resolution, funding in last year's levels through January. Because of the uncertainty of the market, it's uncertainty as the budgets come in and what plays out for the fall. The House is okay, ready to do that. They are fine with just keeping it as it is. However, the Senate feels compelled to do as the Senate always does, is be independent, and they want to do a budget. So we'll figure that out in the next 3 weeks. Let's move on. Elections are coming up so quickly for former member Chip Jackson's seat. The filing was closed. They've got 4 people running for that seat. The election is actually September 8th. I mean, talking about a quick turnaround time. So we're the Chamber and the Business Industry Association, as well as the Realtors, are going to be meeting with some candidates next week to get to know them and make sure that we've got folks thinking about the overall business community and some logical thinking on Richland County Council. So we'll be meeting with them. We'll let you know how that goes next week. But I mean, that is a unbelievable short turnaround to do an election. Anyway, I'm missing Chip right now. Also, interesting news coming out of Columbia College. They have named a new president. We're going to get President Tom Bogart will be coming in October 1st. So we look forward to having him in this community. We welcome him and his wife. He's led several different places. I want to make sure I get this right. He was undergrad Rice, master's in economics from Princeton, but just came from Maryville College in Tennessee. So we'll look forward to hearing from him in the near future. All right, let's talk a few other things we got going on. Had a great military affairs committee meeting this week. Everything Fort Jackson is rocking and rolling, but they've got some great new leadership out there, and they graduated 666, I think, Susan, troops yesterday, which they're doing every week, but they are moving in and out of CAE, so keep an eye out for them if you're flying in and out of Columbia. I have not flown since COVID, but for those that have, more power to you. All right, I'm gonna leave the politics out because I'm over that already. Unless somebody else wants to bring that up, I'll give you your shot. Y'all are over it too. Okay, great. I do want to think downtown's going to be interesting today and tomorrow. We've got a couple dueling protests today, more expected tomorrow. I'm thinking about our men in blue, and also I'm really hoping for a peaceful protest. There's nothing more beautiful than a peaceful protest. Let's hope it stays that way. I feel like we're walking on eggshells right now, and it certainly would help if it stayed peaceful. So anyway, Chamber, we got a couple big things coming up next week. This is actually our end of our fiscal year ends on Monday, and so we've been busy doing end of the year stuff. It's the stuff that's really, it's not fun, but whatever, we got to do it, right? For all of us business folks, you got to do the books, you got to close out everything. And so we've been busy at that. But Monday or Tuesday, we're going to have a great presentation on race in the workforce. And we've got some folks from Bank of America. Kim Wilkerson's going to moderate this. We've got Tim Arnold with Colonial Life, CEO, will be joining us. And Unum has done a great job promoting diversity and inclusion programming throughout their many companies that they have. And we're also appreciative that Steve Benjamin is going to be joining us for that on Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock. So we welcome you to that conversation on Tuesday, and we'll see that takes us. I think we'll be doing some more light conversations as we go through it, but we ask you to join us. All right, what else we got today? Anything? I'm going to open it up a little bit because I know someone out there's got some pearls of wisdom to share with us. Y'all do this to me every time I ask, and so now I've got to call somebody out. Isn't that right, Bryant Davis?
I had a feeling.
Hey, you've got this opportunity. Y'all are going to do some programming next week as well. So why don't you shout out what y'all are planning?
Sure. So our Office of Small Business Opportunity, much like the Chamber as well, has been delving into diversity, equity, and inclusion as well. Our Small Business Office is hosting a webinar on September 10th, and go to our Richland County website. It's our Office of Small Business Opportunity. I'll actually throw that link, Carl, to actually see that and register. But have some great speakers. His very own Ron Harvey is going to be a part of one of those discussions as well. We think it's great, especially at this time and what's happened with COVID, the light it shined on some of the inequities that exist. It's a great opportunity for discussion for small business and the importance of small business and growth, and how we can help small business that exists now. So, Carl, very happy that you guys are doing something very similar as well. But again, if you do have any questions or anything, I'm going to throw the link for that to our website in the chat as well. And you can get registered there. So okay. Thanks, Carl.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that, let me just share, I know Greg's on here, Waterstrap with Blue Cross, but I don't know if y'all saw this great news from the Blue Cross Blue Shield Foundation and donating $8 million to 5 HBCUs in South Carolina this week. That's a huge investment for them. And I will tell you, if anyone doubts the generosity of Blue, but the importance of Blue Cross in this community, that's a sure sign of it. But it also highlights the need for additional headquarter companies in this community, because it really, really does impact not just our community, but the entire state. And so thanks to Blue Cross, but here's to finding some more headquarter companies to locate here in the Midlands. So what else we got? Anybody? Ron Harvey, how's the latest? What's your feel in small business these days and some of your clients?
Hey, good morning, everyone, and thanks, Carl. For the small business community, what I'm still hearing is just really trying to figure out how to stay present, how to stay visible, and really start identifying, from the community what they need so they can try to solve some of the issues that's happening in our community. So I'm trying to get to the table and have conversations about some of the things that some of the school districts are going through, where they can use small businesses, or some of the other companies or corporations, that are in our area, where small businesses are willing to pick up a new skill or reskill their workforce or their talent on their teams to help solve some of the problems that exist in our community. So they want to be just as much part of solving the problems in our community as every other organization. So I would say, from the small business perspective, if there's something that you're trying to figure out how to solve, have a conversation with a small business that may not even do that particular thing, but are willing to learn how to do it so you can spend your time taking care of your organization. And so they're in a position to do that now more than ever, and they need to do it more than ever. They just kind of, like most of us, are trying to figure out what's the best way to support our community across the board. So I think that is huge. And the other thing I'll say for us as an organization specifically, as much as people are zoomed out, I've told every small business owner not to be zoomed out, not to get tired of those meetings, because that's where it's happening at, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So I told them to be patient and continue to stay on all the Zooms. Most of us are probably on 4 to 5 Zooms a week. That's part of surviving business right now. And so I try to tell them to stay calm and collective and go on to those meetings. And that's the visibility now. And so if you're not on Zoom and there's no other way for you to get with the group that we're with this morning, then you may be missing an opportunity, because you don't know who's on that call that can use your service. And then we're doing our John Maxwell event that we do every year, Carl. That the Chamber has been super supportive of that. I've decided as a leader of our company that we're going to do that totally virtual. John Maxwell is doing different things, and he'll do it live. I just don't feel comfortable doing it live here in Columbia. I'm just not there yet. And so I'm going to do it totally virtual. And I'll drop that link in there for the safety of everyone. We normally bring 500 people to the event. There's nowhere I want to be with 500 people right now. And so I'm going to think safety before profit or margins or anything other than, I love to see you, but I'll see you virtually until we feel safe. I don't want to bring anything home to my family. And I know some close friends that have been diagnosed with COVID and lost friends with that. So I don't want to do anything that's going to put my family in jeopardy. So, and I don't want to do it to you either. That date is October the 9th. It's virtual. The tickets are $75. It's on the Chamber's website, but it's totally virtual. The speakers are John himself, Steve Harvey will be there, Kat Cole will be there, and then Alan Mully will be the speakers. And for the thing that Brian spoke about, I helped put that together for us, because I'm excited always to help our community grow through leadership. And that's what I do all the time. And so we've lined that up really, really well, where I'll be doing with Colette Holt. We're talking about where compliance meets reality. We know what the law says about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but what's happening for real on the ground. We're going to have a real open dialogue about that. It'll be moderated by Trey Taylor. And then we'll have 5 panelists, which is Louise Connell from BMW. We've asked her to join. She said yes. We have Jimmy Chow, who most of you guys know, who's here in Columbia. He'll be one of the panelists. Dominic from Optus will be one of the panelists for us. Also Felicia Howard, you guys know her well. She'll be one of our panelists. We haven't used her, and I wanted to do something different. And then we'll have an individual out of Charlotte, which is a Dr. Griffin, which is a small business owner. So we have a very, very, very diverse group of panelists that's going to ask real questions about how do we do the best and become more inclusive in our community. So thank you guys for everything you've done for me and what you continue to do to support small business in the chamber.
Hey, thanks for reminding me. I don't know if y'all saw this, but it was a great article. I read it in the American Banker, but speaking of Optus Bank and Dominic, PayPal just dumped $50 million into an account at Optus to help support minority-owned businesses in this community. And so that's a good plug for not only Optus, who's right downtown on Main Street, but again, that's good stuff happening. We want to make sure we support Optus Bank. I'm laughing, Ron, because you said 4 or 5 Zooms a week. I knew I was an overachiever in some things, but I thought you were talking a day.
Yes, they're a day. For me, they're a day. Some people are a week, but I'm 4 or 5 a day. That's the only way we survive, Carl. If we don't do Zoom, we will not be in business.
That's exactly right. So thanks for the update. I'm looking at Leanna Lee, all smiley. Leanna, what's an update from you?
I'm over here laughing because this is what my Zoom meetings look like these days.
That's awesome.
So I'm over here. Listen, the hotel is up, back and running. We've been open since June. Occupancy is increasing across the brand. Hover, turn it down. You know, occupancy is increasing both in our city and other cities, surrounding cities, Charleston, Greenville. But, you know, to your point earlier, if we don't continue the trend of decreasing cases, and this is what I don't think students understand either, is we'll lose things like football. We'll lose things, you know, like kids being back to school, and that's going to affect, you know, hotels, restaurants, businesses. But, you know, we're doing our part to just make sure that we can stay up and open and safe for everyone. Staying at hotels looks a little different these days, but, you know, we're doing what we can. In fact, we've seen more local people staying at our hotels now just because they need a change of scenery than ever before. So as chamber members, you have your own rate set up at my hotel.
Which is the Graduate, right?
Right. Yep. Graduate Columbia, right downtown. But yeah, I mean, you know, we're doing our part to open responsibly, you know, partnering with the chamber, but things are as good as they can be for us. And, you know, we're doing all the Zooms and, you know, communicating across the brand and with we call them our comp set. It's our competitors basically in the area, but to see all the hoteliers kind of come together and, you know, while we're competing for the same business per se, we've all become very close friends throughout all of this. So it's really been kind of cool to see the entire city come together and partner with each other. And if I can't take a piece of business, then David over at the Hyatt Place can. And, you know, I know that, and we'll send them over there. So, you know, I tend to stay positive about things generally. You just called me Smiley, and that's what they call me at work too. But yeah, you know, you find light and you live in it.
That's right.
So we're good.
Thanks for the dose of positivity today. We needed it. I needed it. All right. What, anybody else got some thoughts for the day? Look, Adam Vance raising his hand. Good morning. Yeah, you go.
Hey, good morning, everybody. And thank you. I was just saying on the Zoom topic at Sound and Images, you know, shameless plug, but we are working with people every day to make that experience much better with higher end, bring your own device equipment for these meetings. This morning at my early morning, I call it Old Man Run Group. There's a couple attorneys in there, and I was talking to them, and they're doing virtual depositions and things of that nature. And we've gone in these offices and seen some pretty creative setups with iPads, and you know, they talk about all the feedback and how it took them an hour and a half, 2 hours to get it set up. They bring an IT person in there that doesn't know anything about AV, and you know, that poor person's thrown into it. And I'm like, guys, what do y'all charge per hour? I mean, I know our attorney's pretty expensive, so you've got 3 or 4 attorneys in there bumbling for an hour at $300 a pop, you know, when you can get some better equipment. So if anyone needs any help trying to improve that experience as far as having these virtual meetings and events, because events are gone, you know, as we all know, and that's a huge part of our business. And so we've been helping nonprofits go all virtual. and reach many more people as opposed to just the 200 or 300 that we used to have in the room. And so anyway, just sort of my shameless plug there. If anybody's, you know, having issues with that or trouble, that's what we do all day long, and we're here to help.
Great. That's not shameless. I'd be proud of that. Hey, all right. Any other? Happy to open the floor up. Anybody? I'm making sure I catch everybody. All right. All right. I'm going to do this is we got time for a quick poll. Next week is Labor Day weekend. All in favor of coffee with Carl next Friday? Anybody want a week off? Nobody's voting. Nobody. How about raise a hand? Anybody for it? We'll do it. We got it. We're here next Friday morning at 9 o'clock. And we'll hopefully have some good news to share. A lot going on again next week as we go into to September. So y'all be safe, wear your masks, wash your hands, and tell your college kids next door to do the same. Y'all be safe. We'll see you next Friday. Peace out.
Bye, guys.